Welcome to the Data Hall YouTube channel. In our previous videos, we have discussed how do we calculate stock return using different packages. For example, we discussed how to calculate stock return using XTS package, using tidyverse package, download stock returns data using quant mode package from the Yahoo Finance, from within the R, right? So these are the things that we had discussed in our previous video. In this video, we are going to talk about how do we calculate portfolio returns in R. So there are different methods that we are going to use. So first we are going to look into how do we calculate portfolio returns manually, then using the XTS object, the tidyverse package, and lastly using the tidyquant package. So I'm going to load these two packages over here. If you haven't installed them, then install them using these lines of code. I have already installed them, so I'm just going to load these packages. This is the timeTK package and the tidyverse package. Then I'm going to load this data. You can download this data from the link given in the description. Now this data contains date column, and then we have for assets, we have SPY, we have Microsoft, Apple, and then we have S&P 500 index, right? Now we know we had 4 tickers for different assets in our data frame. So I'm just going to create this object. The reason is that I want to create a weights object, and we have assigned 30% weight to SPY, 10% weight to Microsoft, and so on and so forth within our portfolio. So I'm going to create this table, this data frame that contains the weight and the tickers. This is needed because this would be connected with merged with other data frames, and we would use these weights to calculate portfolio weighted portfolio returns. So let's look into manual method. And in manual method, what we do is we take this weights, first weight, right? This is the weight object that we created over here, multiply it with the first column. This is second column because let me show you this object. This first column contains date, and we need to multiply it with the second column. That's why we have used 2 over here. Similarly, we take weight 2, multiply it with the third column, weight 3, multiply it with the third asset, weight 4, multiply with the fourth asset. If I can show you this, we get portfolio returns, but this is a vector, and and it doesn't contain the date. So I'm going to take the dates from the stock returns data frame and use the cbind to combine these columns. Now you do not have to worry about this, but just make sure that you understand that we have got the portfolio returns. This is the portfolio return for this date, and so on and so forth. Let's move to XTS object. Obviously, you are not going to work with the manual method. You are going to use some of the packages, and these packages make our life easier. So working with XTS object, first we need to convert our data frame into an XTS object. And even before we convert this data frame into an XTS object, let me show you the issue with the date column. Now you can see that the SPA, all these assets are in numerical form, but date is considered in a character as a character vector, right? But it isn't a character, it should be date, right? And we need to tell R that this is a date. Read this column as a date rather than a character. And to do that, what we do is we take this data frame, mutate a column, and that would be date column, because although its name is date, so what this would do is it would replace the current column with the new column, and this new column would contain the date. So we are using this MDY function, which stands for month, day, and year. The format your date is, you would use that function. So if your date is YMD, that is the year comes first, the month comes second, and the day comes last, then you would use YMD. In my case, we have month, then followed by day, and then followed by year. So I'm using this MDY function. Specify the column that I want to convert and execute this line of code. And now if I can show you the structure of this data frame, you can see that we have R reads it as a date column. Now this is required because in XTS object, the row index is a date column, and if it isn't, if R doesn't read it as a date, then we cannot create an XTS object. So now we have successfully converted this character date into a date format, And what we need to do is take this data frame and convert it into an XTS object using this tk_XTS function, where the date variable would be the date column. If I execute this, let me show you this data, this XTS object. So we have the dates, and then we have these columns over here that are our assets, right? So what we are going to do is install the performance analytics package and use this performance analytics package to calculate portfolio returns. So within this performance analytics package, we have this function called return.portfolio. And this return.portfolio requires the XTS object. So this is the XTS object that we have created, and we are assigning it over here. The weights that would comes from this weight vector, right? And lastly, we need to tell it how do we want to rebalance our portfolio. So obviously when the stock would start trading and we would start earning returns, our weights would shift, right? It would not remain the same weight as we had assigned previously. So we need to rebalance our portfolio. For that, we can either rebalance monthly, weekly, or at any other frequency, but usually it is rebalanced yearly. So I have specified to rebalance it yearly and execute this, and we get our portfolio returns XTS object. You can compare these values with the manual values, and you can see that they are exactly the same, right? Let's move to the second method, the third method, which is the tidyverse package. Now, usually we have data in a data frame, and we would not want to convert it into a XTS object. Maybe there is a function that does not work with the XTS object, and it just works with the data frame. So we also need to know how to work with tidyverse package. So we take the stock returns data frame. First, you need to understand that this data is in the wide format. This CSV data frame or this XTS object is in the wide format. XTS works in the wide format. In wide format, we have a column for each stock, but in tidyverse works better when the data is in a long format. That is, the data is in a tidy format, right? Where all these stocks, all these assets are stacked on one another, and we have a single column for each different set of variable, for each different variable. So we take this data frame, convert it into a longer format where the columns would exclude the date column. The names, the column names would be converted into a column called ticker. The returns, these values would be converted into a column returns. Next, we are going to sort this on the basis of ticker and date. And we are going to merge this with this ticker weight, where each stock would have its own weight in a column front of each stock. Let me execute this, and let me quickly show you that object that we have created. You can see that all these stocks are stacked on one another. We have Apple stock over here, then we have Microsoft, then we have SPY, and then we have the S&P 500 index, right? And we have their returns, their weights. So this is the long format. We have each variable in its own column, rather than the wide format where we have each asset in its own column. So once we have this tidy data, what we need to do is take this tidy data, create a column that would be weighted return, which should be equal to return multiplied by weight. So return column multiplied by the weight column. We have this return column, we multiply this with a weight column. So each value in this return column would be multiplied with the corresponding value in the weight column. Next, we group by the date and summarize the returns, which would be the sum of the weighted return. Remember, in weighted return, we are just calculating the weighted return. We are not calculating the portfolio return. To calculate portfolio return, we would have to use the summarize option and take the sum of those weighted return for each date. If I execute this, we have portfolio return tidy, and you can compare it with this XTS object and with this manual portfolio that we have created. We have the exact same stock returns, the portfolio returns that that we had with the manual method or we had with the XTS object. Lastly, the most easiest function is the tidyquant package, and you need to load the tidyquant package and install it. So within tidyquant package, we are going to again use the tidy data, because tidyquant also works with the tidy data as the name suggests. And we use the exact same object that we created over here, this long data, this tidy data. And we use this function called TQ portfolio, where we need to provide 3 inputs. The first input is what is the column that contains the stocks, the firm names. So there is this column called ticker that contains the information related to stocks. Then we need to assign which column contains the returns, that is the return column, right? And then we tell it what is the weights column. And if I execute this, you can see that the portfolio returns using tidyquant method has been created. I hope this video was useful. Do subscribe to this channel, do hit the bell icon, and thanks for watching this video.